What's up, people? Punch here. So I'm deciding to check out the new update that came out for Breachway, and this is update number 12. This update, they actually released a new ship, and beforehand we didn't know what the name was. It was just called Missile Frigate. Well, they gave it a name. It's called the Avalanche. This is the new Missile Frigate ship. What it does is allows you to fire missiles, but also be able to get them back. Normally when you fire missiles in the game, it depletes, meaning that it goes away from your deck until the end of combat. However, when it comes down to the Missile Fabricator, it says, can play fabricate missile to replenish consumed missile cards, meaning that you can get them back. So normally you couldn't get them back originally like you could with Pulse Laser, Catalyst Laser, or all the other weapons that you use in the game like Flat Cannon or Railgun. The missiles were always just one use and done. However, with the Avalanche, you're able to get those lost missiles when you fire them, so you're not always going to have to worry about them being used and then not being able to use them afterwards. The other thing I like about the Avalanche is you get Prep Volley, which is once you activate it, it goes 3 turns, and then it fires 3 Firefly missiles, which do 4 damage each missile. So you're going to be doing 12 damage in total, unless they have a point defense to take down the missiles that are currently going after them. The other thing is they give you 2 tracers at the start, and then you have another launch bay for another missile launcher, and then a primary weapon. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the combat when it comes down to the Avalanche. When you start off with the ship, they have the 2, 2, and 2 for the ordnance, the mass, and the energy, unless you put another one on there with the reactor that gives you +1 more energy. Then you have to get into the whole deal with firing missiles that take 1 turn before they initially hit the target. So you're going to have to worry about getting shot at by pulse lasers, railguns, or really any type of weapon that they're currently using at the time. Like, for example, the heavy laser for the giant capital ship. But mainly it is a ship that is used for firing missiles at other targets and keeping yourself safe while you're waiting for that turn to go off to get hit with like 12, 14, 20, even up to like 30 damage for missile damage. Going down the patch notes, they talk about some other new additions in the game. For example, reducing randomness in combat. Flak functionality has been adjusted to minimize unpredictable damage swings. Combat is now more strategic and predictable, empowering players to plan counteractions against enemies effectively, meaning that if they're going to try to broadcast their attack, you're going to be able to see what they do. Then they improve the card's synergy. New damage types, Precision Blast and Ion, have been introduced. These additions foster deeper interaction between cards and equipment, promoting a creative deck-building opportunity, meaning for higher damaging abilities, doing combo moves, and so on. Then they talk about the shred counters. Most flat cards now apply shred counters to enemies. They also have the brittle effect, which is whenever an enemy accumulates 10 shred counters, they gain brittle, increasing the damage they take from blast attacks. Controlled impact. These changes maintain the destructive power of flak while making their effects easier to plan and utilize effectively. Also, going down the damage types, to enhance card synergies and combat creativity, 3 new damage types have been added: Precision, Blast, and Ion. Which Precision allows you to hit targets specifically, Blast is the entire ship, and Ion does stuff to the functionality, which is the modules such as Ordnance, Energy, and Mass. And this has kind of been a thing, but they're kind of making it more improved as the early access goes on for Breachway. Another mechanic in the game is called the Ignite mechanic, which is when you fire a beam laser at a ship, it will take heat damage, and the more heat that they accumulate, the more hull damage they'll take. So when they talk about it, they say how it works: each point of hull damage dealt by Ignite card generates 1 heat on the target, up to the card's Ignite value. Meaning if you fire a bunch of weapons that have Ignite on it, for example pulse lasers or the beam lasers themselves, then you're able to make them take hull damage past their threshold of heat. So if their threshold is currently 3, then they're going to be taking whatever damage that's after the 3 mark. So if it's 15, they'll be taking 12. If it's 10, they'll be taking 7. Another feature they touched on was the whole enemy updates, and they said enemy behavior has been updated to align with new mechanics. Their actions are now more predictable, providing clear opportunities for counterplay and strategic planning. Like I said earlier, when it comes down to their attacks, it will show easier or exactly what they're about to do before their turn ends. So that's also a nice functionality with the game. And plus, it will probably stop a bunch of the review bombers that are currently smashing the game for being too difficult or not being fun enough because they can't have their own type of ship and their own kind of customization. But anyway, I like to make fun of the review bombers for some of these games because I don't understand what the hell they're talking about half the time when they're saying it's too difficult or it's unplayable or the bugs in this game ruin it. It's early access. I mean, we always have to go through this every time I talk about in a video. Zero Seafort, Forever Skies, Sunken Land, whatever. It's going to be in development for a while until it hits full release. And this might not even be the last ship that they put into the game. They might add a couple more. They might add one more and it might be the end and you only get about 5 or 6 ships in the game when it comes out to full release later on, maybe next year. On the patch notes, they have a couple more things before the end of the video. For example, the next update, they're going to be doing unlockable starting loadout options, mix match equipment, variants to create multiple starting configurations tailored to different playstyles, expanded the starting perks, unlock and experiment with new perks to add depth and variety to your runs, and then achievements and progression features later on. Before the end of the video, there were a couple other things I want to talk about in Breachway as well as early access in general. For example, when you do lose in combat, they changed the way defeat is. They have a description on the top, something coming soon on the bottom, and then something else. They also changed the way that your ship blows up. Normally when it blew up, it would be the ship there and then the explosions afterwards. Now it's just a giant fireball. The other thing they did was they changed the way that the store looks. For example, when you go into the actual station, when you get onto the icon, everything would be there before you enter the hangar to repair your ship. Now everything is inside the hangar itself, so if you want to repair, remove a card, add a card, get a fuel, or being able to get which is combat training, a new thing that they added for crews, as well as +2 morale, which would have been the normal thing you would get. And I didn't understand what +2 morale actually did for your crew or for your actual ship, but it's nice to have combat training that gives you, I think it's 50% additional attack damage on your first attack. I never understood when it came down to the morale +2. I didn't know exactly what it did, but having something that's actually going to help you out with adding more attack damage to your first attack, like if you have pulse laser or railgun, and then being able to add more onto that with your special crew ability, I could see that being very devastating. Since we're winding down to the end of the video, let's talk a little bit about early access games in general. People have always had issues with this because games have always had bugs and problems and performance issues and so on and so forth. Let me be completely clear with all of you. I would rather spend $60 worth of early access games that are buggy, broken pieces of shit than buy $70, $80 for one single game that has no fleshed out bugs whatsoever. It's broken as shit and has no way of being able to play it. So people that give early access a stigma saying that it's crap and garbage and shit don't understand how it works. And I understand too that there are some shady ass developers out there. But you have to understand too that not all of them are bad. And it's always difficult to tell who's going to abandon their project and who's not going to. And sadly, that's how early access games are. I mean, I did a lot of Kickstarter games in the past before early access was on Steam. And I'm pretty much happy with what they did because they allow you for a refund, which is 2 hours past the gameplay, or 2 weeks if you keep it for long enough. So, I mean, that's just how it is. But anyway, I've been One Nut Punch, and this has been the Breachway Avalanche video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.